Yeah. With that being said, I want to ask this. How can we recognize when a friendship is no longer serving us in a healthy, authentic way?
When it started becoming stressful. When it started being stressful, draining, I've been in that position, that situation where I've had a friendship that was draining. I was giving more than they were giving. So, you take a lot out of a bank account, what happens? A withdrawal. And so I strongly believe it, friendship, relationship, all of that, there has to be a two-way street.
Yeah.
Now you will have, just like with, our spiritual mother, she does a lot of pouring, but there's pieces of us that we pour back into
Absolutely.
her. And, but so I'm a big proponent of that. If you're in a relationship, it should not be one-sided.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be being drained every time you get off the phone. Every time I get off the phone, I'm drained. Every time. And there will be times where we have to be that friend and be that person, in that season. But I think you'll know. You'll know when it's like it becomes real taxing, it's stressful, it's it's negative, it's not pushing you to become your best self. Yeah. It should be pushing you to become your best self, encouraging. Definitely we can't deal with no jealousy. And I can't be in a relationship with you and you jealous. Right. You know what I'm saying? So when you start seeing stuff like that, but I think you'll know. I think you'll know. And if you have to question it, you kind of already know the answer. You like, yeah, you know.
And I think, if we really be honest with ourselves, sometimes it's like, man, but I thought we were okay. Well, what's wrong? What happened? And we start questioning. When you try to push past your own limits and that questioning, this is how relationships become toxic. Because really, toxicity, I'm not going to get too scientific, but what happens is the balance has gone left. That balance is not like when our deodorant fails us. The balance has left.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when a relationship gets toxic. The balance has left. And then it starts stinking.
Yeah.
And it will show up in how we respond, how they respond. And then it gets ugly and it's like, okay, wait a minute. If we don't cut this off now, we could destroy something that really was supposed to remain. But because we weren't diligent, and sometimes we find ourselves in toxic relationships out of fear. I believe that's always the baseline.
Yes.
Because we're afraid to be
alone,
left, afraid to be alone, afraid to even talk about hurt feelings or express how we felt, because I don't want them to think this about me. But people change, relationships change. You better change. You better evolve.
I think it's important. If you're in a relationship or in a friendship, you should always be okay to be able to express yourself. If you're in a relationship or friendship that you can't express yourself, you can't tell that person, well, when you did this, you might have to check that, because that's it. You have to have realness and be authentic in relationships. You cannot do no fake friend type of thing. Like, you have to be able to be real. Like, if you my sister, I need to be able to be like, listen, this is what's going on. And you still can see the God in me, see, all the other stuff, but I can be it can be a safe place where I can, to do that.
Yeah, I think you saying safe place, I think that's one thing that makes our sisterhood true. Because I'll take it to the grave.
Okay.
I will take it to...
Okay.
Don't know nothing, but what I do know, I'm going to pray about it. It's between me and the Father and you, and that's it.
Right.
And then when we are sisters like that, and we don't even have to connect all the time, I can believe the best for you. And you'll still be on my prayer list. I can be in the background, rooting you on, cheering you on, and I don't even have to say it. Say we don't talk ever so often, and then I can see a prayer answered. And that's how you know when some of your relationships are real, when you don't have to connect all the time, but you have that spiritual connection where you can continue to root that person on, pray for them, carry them. There are people that I wish were in this room, but I know that I'm carrying them with me. So I have to give a shout out to my best friend, Ashley, who lives in Kentucky. Some of you all have seen her before because she's been there for everything. My divorce, my marriage, the children, like everything. Like, and I talked to her yesterday and I'm like, now how I'm doing the girlfriend hour and you not here? Like, you're my best friend. But she said, no, it's okay. I'll just watch it. Send me the link. So I have to give a shout out to her because just to have people that are always there. But this is the last thing that I'll ask about because neither one of us are from Huntsville. Moving to a new city, and I believe most of these people in the room are not from Huntsville. Might be from Alabama. Might have one or two true ones. Okay, I see you.
Okay.
True Huntsvillians. Moving to a new area and finding the good, authentic friendships. What's that process been like? Yeah.
It was a struggle. Like, it took me a couple, I mean, you know, I was very close-knit with my family. So, you know, it was a lot like leaving my family to come to a whole totally new place. So it took me a minute to like adjust to that, but I mean, once I did get in there, I mean, it was, I didn't have a problem making friends. Yeah. I mean, I'm still connected to some people that I first met, you know, that I, you know, connected to when I first met here. So, yeah.
That's the thing too. Like when we go new places, I'm like, well, I don't know nobody. Well, have you introduced yourself to anybody? Like we have to show ourselves friendly. If you want to be friends, show yourself friendly. Smile. And be open. And I say this to my single friends all the time. Smile at the man in the grocery store.
Hey! How you doing?
It's okay.
Do you need help with that? You looking for something? Like, you work here?
It's so important. Like, we, you know, going to new places, we go new places for a reason. And I really do believe that the only way that we can progress in those places is if we open up.
Yeah.
And make those new connections.
Yes.
What else would you like to add before we close out this segment?
I don't know. Well, we ain't talking about boundaries, so that's...
Oh, okay. That's good. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
So,
I'm a boundary queen.
Yeah. And matter of fact, I think that was one of our old videos.
Was it?
I think, I'm almost sure. Go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Talking about boundaries in relationships, especially when we just talked about how relationships have to shift and how they become toxic. One way to avoid having a toxic relationship is to establish good boundaries. What does that look like?
Ooh, I'm gonna be honest. The first when I, you know, so I'm big on therapy. Okay. I'm big on going through that healing journey. Glad I did that. So the first thing when I got into therapy, that's the first thing my therapist dealt with was boundaries. I know. Now I wasn't just out there.
Right.
But there were some things I needed to bring in, relook when it came to friendships, when it came to, you know, relationship with guys. So that was the first thing. And from there, I mean, people laugh and joke because I'm the boundary queen. Like, I don't play. And because boundaries are not just for you, it's for the other person. And so you have to set healthy boundaries in order to make sure that you're good and that person's good. And you have to sometimes let people know. I mean, I've had people not be happy about my boundary, but that's me. And I know what I need at this place in my life, at this season in my life. And again, as I have evolved and I'm continuing to evolve, I know what I need and I know what I no longer need or what I no longer can accept.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we've just in general have just put up with things that we really shouldn't have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that also goes to knowing who you are and loving yourself. because that comes, if you don't really love yourself, that can come sometimes reflect in your relationships, your friendships, your picking what you accept, the kind of friends you accept in your life. So the type of relationship. So I'm really big on boundaries.
If you don't mind sharing, what are some things that you put a boundary on? Like before, like you said, your therapist helped you deal with some things. I would accept or I would allow this, but now that I have these healthy boundaries, I don't accept that anymore.
So when I see it, I used to be the type of person, like I would see it, but I wouldn't say nothing. And I'd be frustrated inside and mad, but like, you ain't saying nothing. And that's kind of like not fair to the other person, not to, so now when there's something I'm experiencing in relationships, I'm very vocal in a nice way, like, hey, this no longer works for me, or hey, this is what I need. Because sometimes people don't know what you need. And that's where the dialogue, the conversation, kind of laying those ground rules in relationships, you have to do. So I'm very clear about, hey, like when you said this, or hey, I don't play about this, that, you know what I'm saying? So you just have to, I think you start establishing them as you go.
Yeah. I also believe that when we, one, get honest with ourselves and we're able to get comfortable with, wait a minute, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I know to be true, this is what I want to allow, and we find our voice. Sometimes people don't like it when we get loud because they expect us to be quiet, but when you have found yourself, it's hard to be quiet.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, no, I don't play. It's hard to be quiet because, as Ma says, to thine own self be true. I'm not going to lie on me. I can't. It doesn't even feel good to go against yourself, especially not for when you learn for the sake of somebody else. Like, why sacrifice you for something that does not even work for you, something that does not even serve you? That's so self-defeating, depleting, and you can't thrive.
You can't.
In that type of relationship. Like they call it self-sabotage, but you suck the life out of your own self because of what you sometimes allow.
One of my biggest sayings that I have, you teach people how to treat you about what you allow. So if you continue to allow people to come in your life, and as you was talking, I was thinking like another boundary of mine, like I used to have friendships, not where they use me or anything like that, but I would be more of the pourer. So I'm always encouraging. I'm always
the giver.
And then I would realize when I needed, like I couldn't find nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I am so big on in relationships now. Like if I feel like you finna just drain me and you're gonna constantly pull, and you have nothing to pour back, those type of relationships I can't. And the more healing, so you hear me talking about healing journey, going to therapy, going, praying and stuff like that. So the more I did that, the more I evolved. I had to get used to, okay, some of these relationships I had weren't really good for me. You know what I'm saying? And it took me a minute to like do that.
Yeah.
To really accept that this relationship was for a season. Yeah. And that was really hard because I'm big on relationships. I'm big on that connection. Yeah. But as I evolved and as I continued about, I'm okay because I know what I need. And I can't be in relationships where I'm not. It has to be an exchange. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be some kind of give and take there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think as we end this segment, one thing that's important when we go through the transition of a relationship and say, okay, that was for a season. When we come to the point where we're able to let it go. Yeah. And then we land on our feet like, wait a minute, it didn't take me out. The world didn't end. People do still love me. How much more confident that makes us. So, Tanisha, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.